remember waking up and having breakfast and my parents turned the TV on. We don't usually watch TV in the morning, so that was a bit of a strange thing to happen. And yeah, just remember seeing it on there.
I just remember seeing all this smoke and fire, and it was really shocking to see that as a child. And I was quite upset by it.
I didn't really understand why somebody would want to hurt so many people, so that confused me.
I just remember Mum listening quite intently on the radio, and then we got dropped off to school, and I guess everything was different.
September 11, 2001 is a day many people will never forget, even if they were kids living thousands of miles away from here, New York City. In the morning, while people arrived for work and tourists gathered to see the famous sights, extremists working for a terrorist group hijacked planes and flew them into the two massive World Trade Center buildings, eventually causing this to happen. Another target was the American Defense Headquarters known as the Pentagon in Virginia. And a final plane was believed to be heading for America's capital, Washington, D.C., before passengers fought back and caused the plane to crash. By the end of that horrible day, nearly 3,000 people had died and thousands more were injured. It was an attack designed to shock the world and create fear. While Americans mourned, the US government quickly turned to finding those responsible and holding them to account.
These acts shatter steel, but they cannot dent the steel of American resolve.
Investigations showed that known terrorist Osama bin Laden and his group Al-Qaeda were behind the attacks. So America's next move was to target their base in the Middle Eastern country of Afghanistan.
Right, at 20!
US soldiers and troops from allied countries like Australia were sent there as the war in Afghanistan was declared. Security in America and even here in Australia also changed dramatically after the attacks. Before September 11, American airline passengers could sometimes take pocket knives on flights, and kids could visit the plane's cockpit. Now the doors are locked and bulletproofed. In Australia, the government started warning us of the possibility of a similar attack happening here.
Be alert, but not alarmed. Together, let's look out for Australia.
Of course, nothing on the scale of 9/11 ever did happen here, but some things like heightened security still remain. The war in Afghanistan also carried on for many years, becoming the longest war in America's history. It was only in 2014 that President Barack Obama announced the US would withdraw nearly all its troops from Afghanistan, and Australia did the same. In the 15 years that have passed since 9/11, New York has built a new World Trade Center, along with a museum and two huge memorials on the exact spot where the buildings stood. And every year, on the anniversary of 9/11, people gather here to remember one of the darkest days in America's history and to hope for brighter days ahead.